Why, hello there, everyone. We are currently watching day one of EVO, and it opened with a Hunter x Hunter panel of all things. And we got not only a trailer for another character, with it being Meruem here, but we also got the opening movie, which reveals the remainder of the launch roster. And there is definitely a surprise here to me. But let's watch the Meruem trailer first, because in terms of the YouTube channel, they uploaded that first. So it's cool that they presumably have a unique intro here, unless this is specifically just made for a trailer, which I doubt. Maybe it's made for some kind of story mode thing. Not really like a full story mode, but just some kind of single player content. Also, it looks as if the characters are, in fact, moving their mouths in the character intros now, which is good. Because I think the lack of mouth movement is partly what made people think the game looked very cheap before. Also, I'm glad this is his intro. Going into his weird pose before he fought Netero. And I think the biggest question when you see Meruem immediately is he awakened or reborn Meruem, right? Because right now you can't tell. So just keep watching. Naturally, you can see a lot of his tail being involved. You can see his tail being involved in a lot of the attacks. I was thinking he's probably going to be like Cooler from Dragon Ball FighterZ, just in terms of having really big hitboxes with the tail attacks, right? Aside from that, Meruem doesn't really have much of a technique, so he's just going to, you know, beat the F out of you. Some kind of dive punch there. Huh, OTG with just aura? Some kind of big hitbox that OTGs? That seems useful. I wonder if that's one of his assists. That looks like it could be a good defensive assist right there. That. Also, if it's an OTG assist, that would be very good too. So he has a teleport there. It makes sense that because you can't really do anything too fancy with him, in terms of technique, you would kind of make him a teleport character just because he's really fast. Okay. That could be an assist as well. That's special. And you can see here that it is, in fact, reborn Meruem because he has the Yuppie arm cannon, which I'm really happy about. I was really worried that they would only use his base moveset. So I'm really glad that he's using Yuppie's ability, because I was also worried that, you know, we wouldn't get Yuppie in the game, and we aren't getting Yuppie in the game. And it would be really cool. It would be really easy and cool to make Yuppie, to make a moveset for Yuppie. When I say easy, I mean in terms of imagining a moveset for him. But I knew that with how small this roster is, it was very unlikely that Yuppie would get in. And I also know it's even less likely for Poof to get in. So I was thinking, okay, you could kind of pull a Super Scroll from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Because in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, apparently the devs at one point wanted to put multiple Fantastic Four characters in, like at least Johnny Blaze. But Johnny Blaze, with all the fire, was creating some technical difficulties. And also, that would use up multiple roster slots if they did more than one Fantastic Four character, right? So apparently it was somebody at Marvel, supposedly, how the story goes is that somebody at Marvel suggested, why don't you use Super Scroll? Because then you can have one character that is using moves from all of the Fantastic Four members, right? Because Super Scroll can use fire, he can turn his arm into rocks like the Thing. So that's why they did Super Scroll in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, kind of knocking out two birds with one stone, right? And in this case, like I said, if you don't have Poof or Yuppie, you can still sort of represent their abilities by making Meruem reborn Meruem, because, you know, if you want to play Yuppie, you'd want to have the arm cannon, so Meruem can have that. And if you play Poof, presumably you'd want to play him as a flight character, and Meruem could have a flight, potentially. I feel like they would have shown this in the trailer, so maybe he doesn't have the fight, so that's a little bit disappointing that they did reborn Meruem with only the Yuppie arm and no fight, but I'm glad that they at least included the Yuppie arm. I wonder how far away you can actually combo into this, because, you know, it is a cannon, so presumably that's a really big hitbox. Also, I'm glad that you can use the UP arm cannon in the game to actually use it on an opponent, because in the show, he doesn't ever actually use it on an opponent. He just uses it on some cliff, right? That looks like Gamma Charge, which is funny because I already made the observation that Uvo Gin looked as if he had a move that was Gamma Charge. But Meruem also has a Gamma Charge-esque move. It might be even more apparent in Meruem's case, honestly, because he did the Gamma Charge going forward and then up diagonally. And then downwards diagonally. Wow, how many loops of that does he get? That's crazy. So this must be his level 3. Okay. The speed at which this shot ends, I think, is kind of underwhelming, but it could just be that they cut it short for the trailer. That's a little comedic. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and assume that it just fades to the end of the trailer before it's actually done, right? Because presumably if you actually did this in a match, even if the cutscene were to end here, the screen would go back to the normal perspective in the fight, right? And you would maybe be seeing Meruem still in this pose, and then he would like flick the blood off of his hand or something. And that would be a lot more satisfying than just having it end right here this fast. But I'm really glad Meruem is in the game, and again, I'm very glad it's reborn Meruem, so we can at least fire the UP cannon, even though I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity. He doesn't have a flight mode, considering, you know, it's reborn Meruem and he has the wings that he could use. But like I said earlier, it was not just Meruem. We also got the opening movie, which reveals the remainder of the roster. So let me play this. I hope my video doesn't get copyright flagged for the music here. So I just need to make sure I talk over it a bunch at least. I'm not expecting anything high budget here. Also, I can't believe they used this shot of Hisoka with the lens flare. I'm not expecting anything too high budget here. Definitely looks like it's, you know, just stills. I'm expecting this to look a lot like the Tatsunoko versus Capcom opening movie, in which it's just basically a bunch of pictures. How much time do we have left before they... Okay, 3 minutes. Let's go through this fast. Oh, are these 2D renders or are these 3D models? Because it looks as if Netero is moving a little bit right there, but that could just be like an Adobe After Effects type of effect they're doing. I'm gonna pause it when we get to the new characters. Okay, so Kite, big win. Kite was kind of an iffy one, right? Kite was kind of an iffy one, because even though he would be so cool in a fighting game, and even though he has such an important role in the story, it would be really hard to think of how to do his moveset, right? Because you could only really have him use the gun and the scythe from the show, and the whole gimmick about the gun and the scythe, at least those two things, is that he can't switch to a different weapon until he's killed at least one thing with it, right? Isn't that how it works? He's not able to put the weapon away and get a new weapon or roll a new weapon until either the fight is done or until he kills something with it. It's one of those two things. So he wouldn't really be... A lot of people think, oh, he'd be the perfect RNG character, but I think when people say that, they're not remembering that he has to stick with the weapon he rolls, and it's only going to be one of two things in this case, unless they just make up stuff for the other weapons, right? So there was a big question mark surrounding Kite, so I'm really glad he's in. I'm really curious how he's going to play. And here's the most surprising pick. Okay, here's Morel. We already knew Morel was getting in because the dev leaked it. Remember that? But Razor, by far the most surprising pick, because this means no Neferpito, which I thought was a lock. I thought Neferpito was an absolute lock with Meruem, right? And I thought Razor would have been such a good DLC character. Because, you know, he's a fan favorite, people like him, but he's not really that important, and we already have Ginthru in to represent Greed Island. Plus, Ginthru was the main villain in Greed Island, even though people remember Razor a bit more fondly, right? I'm glad Razor's in. Like I said, I think he was going to get in, but I thought it was going to be through DLC. So definitely surprising. It'll be really funny seeing him zone with the dodgeball and maybe having his nin beasts kind of ricochet the dodgeball in different directions. He's going to be mega scummy zoner. Really excited about that. So it's not just stills. Unless this is from the actual show. I don't think this is from the actual show. Yeah, these are original assets. That's cool that it's better than the Tatsunoko vs. Capcom opening for the American version. The American version is just screenshots and slideshows, basically. Yeah, I wasn't expecting any kind of actual animation here, to be honest. Oh, dude, they're fighting Razor in here? I wonder if this means we get a dodgeball stage. That would be kind of exciting, actually. But I think they've shown off. Have they shown off all the stages? I don't know. Oh, cool. They referenced this shot. That looks so similar to how I remember it. It's making me wonder if some of these are from the show, but I think that Netero face is definitely new. So I would also imagine that this Meruem shot is also new as well. But I know exactly the shot they're referencing, so maybe that's why it's gaslighting me into thinking that this might have been from the show, but I know it's not entirely from the show just based on the Netero face here. That looks pretty cool. This shot right here. Dude, Kite and Razor, that's wild. I'm actually kind of glad that they saved Kite, Razor, and Morel for the end, because I think their movesets are going to be the most interesting to see. Again, I think the big omissions are Neferpito and Illumi. I know maybe a lot of people weren't looking forward to Illumi. And even though I really like Razor, I think I would have preferred to have Illumi in the base roster and Razor on DLC. Because I think Illumi calling in the truck being driven by a zombie would have been such a wild super. And I think that would have been so good for trailers, right? Imagine if in the trailers you just see his super calls in the 18-wheeler getting driven by a zombie, and it can get called in no matter what stage you're on. I think that would have been really good marketing. That would have been a really good trailer super. But alas, we might have to start hoping for Illumi to get in through DLC now, assuming the game gets DLC. If it does well enough. But typically with these kinds of things, I think usually they always plan a Season 1 before the game even comes out. So even if the game doesn't do well, we're probably getting at least one season of DLC. So I hope we get Illumi and Neferpito. I don't even need to say Neferpito, though, because she would definitely be getting saved for DLC. That's the only reason why she wouldn't be base roster. I think they're probably using her to get people to buy the DLC. So anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think about the Meruem gameplay and also the rest of the base roster. And I will see all of you guys later. So thanks for watching, and bye for now. Okay, that's the end of the YouTube part.